Good morning. Hand today is going to be pocket eights, aces. Under the gun, we open raise and we get one caller. So my open raise range, we've seen it before. It's going to be a fairly tight range, something like that. I mean, no big surprise. We're raising. It's aces. This player though, he's playing 54-4. If we look at his stats, he's playing just basically a lot of hands across the board, 55% in early position. He's raised first in 3 out of 28 in that position. But that's that's unusual. My guess is that he just has happened to have hands in that situation. We only have let's see, 125 hands on him right now, so that could just be an anomaly. Limp first in though is fairly high. What about calls? Well, calls is also pretty high. It's called 2-bet. Again, small sample size, but overall 58%. And big blind, he's probably calling 100%. Mid position and cutoff, not so much. So maybe he tightens up just a little bit in those positions, and then plays really loose on the button and the blinds and so forth. So I kind of started at almost 40%, looked to see what it looked like, and then adjusted it accordingly. Based on his hands, or the notes that we have on his range, I'm looking at limping and calling raise range. He has offsuit connectors, offsuit one gappers down at 9-7. So I think that's in his calling range. You have limp and re-raise with queen 9 off, so I think that's in his calling range. I think your suited, if you have one gapper offsuit hands, you've got one gapper suited hands, but we also see that we have some like jack 7 suited. We have 7-2 suited. That's from the blinds. I think that's probably a big blind situation, but we have 6-3 suited where you limp and call the raise. So you've got your 2 gappers there too. So 6-3, make sure we add that. I think it's just an overall big range. I do think queens plus ace king is going to 3-bet. He hasn't 3-bet yet. We have one hand that we recognize, king queen suited, and that could be like a button raise. Not sure if I'm gonna remove that from his range. I think we've got a pretty decent range built for him just right now. All right, flop comes down 10-4-3. We do have the potential for flush draws, so that increases what kind of hands we're able to play or what kind of hands we're going to c-bet. So with the flush draw, obviously if we also had a straight draw, that really increases the range. I think aces or the overpair is in our c-betting range. Probably not all top pairs. So let's just look at overpair pluses. Overpair plus gives us 3.5%. Our flush draws, if we bet all of them, will be 7.5%. I probably don't think we're betting all of them. I think normally I don't think we would, because I'm not sure if we could. Well, I guess so. And the open ender, I guess we would also have open enders as well in here, and you could probably throw in gut shot. That's 18, and that means then if we're gonna go all of those, we would have to add like ace 10, into our value betting range. That gets us to 6, probably king 10, probably queen 10. Well, maybe not queen 10, ace 10, king 10. That kind of gets us to a better balance. So I think that's kind of usual play. In this case, villain has his fold c-bet set pretty high because he has so many hands in his range that he's just going to dump them. 75%. This is, I think, a situation where we should be c-betting 100% of our range at this point. Oh, oops, that was him. Let's go back to us. Well, I guess if we had that wide range, yeah, that was explaining a lot. Yeah, so you could see that the number of hands that we have here isn't huge. So if we do our over pairs like ace king, aces, kings, sometimes queens, we could do like 50% or so. Our semi bluff is flush draw gut shot. Probably semi bluff with some of our overcards. All overcards will be like way too much. So I think if we just do like the back doors, something like that, that gets us a little bit better, along with then some other weak hands. But okay, getting back to that, I think this is a 100% c-bet spot just because fold to c-bet is so high. I really do think this is it. We're gonna pick up so many pots on this that we're just gonna attack. I think that's the play. Let's not get fancy. Let's not try to play GTO. Let's play exploitative poker here. So I bet 4.9, which is about 2/3. I do think that's probably okay, because if he calls, if villain calls, he's calling with top pair plus. I think set's gonna raise, but so we'll leave that in because we don't know what he's gonna do yet. I think top pair plus, flush draw, open ender, probably not the gut shot. Probably not the gut shot. We're looking at maybe 30% right now. I guess the question is, does he call with those, which adds another like 6%? Does he call with a middle pair? I guess it doesn't really matter. If he calls with all of those, we're way ahead. We're way ahead. But he's still folding. I mean, even at all of those at 42%, he's still folding, you know, over half the time. So it is. I think we're profiting at this point. But you know, the reason or the thing that's telling us this is this high fold c-bet stat. So yeah, I think we could probably bet half pot, or a third pot here. If we do a third pot, we're encouraging more calls. We're probably encouraging these bottom pairs. If we bet the 2/3 like we did, I think we're more than likely kind of getting rid of some of those hands. These pocket pairs should be folding. He calls, so we'll say just top pair plus is what he's calling with. King clubs comes out. I think that's decent. We have the ace of clubs, so we know we blocked flush draw or the nut flush draw. I don't think we can get scared. I think we continue betting this. We've got our top pair hand. I think we continue betting if we had a queen or a jack of clubs. I mean, at this point, we do think he could have the 10, he could have the club. I don't think we slow down. I think we continue. Well, we're going to continue betting with the flush. We would continue betting with the straight, two pair, and I think just the over pair. I think the top pair now we could be justified in just checking. And then we're still continuing. I think the nut flush draw, second nut's probably including it. I think third nut, if we had the queen, we're continuing to do that. I don't think the open ender is going to be betting anymore. So we're about half and half value, half bluff at this point. I think that's probably appropriate. So I do like that we did bet. I bet about half pot bet, and I think that's probably appropriate. Villain just calls. I think at this point, if he did have those under pairs, I don't think he's calling them. But I do think middle pair. Oh, we should go back here. I did think sets were going to raise, and possibly two pair. I think that's usually typical of players. And let's just check real quick. Flop raises. Raise a c-bet. Hasn't raised a c-bet. Hasn't check raised. He did 2-bet there, so he can do it. So let's get us there. So right now he could have a flush. Could have two pair. Could have pocket pair. Less than the top card. Middle pair is going to be heavy. And if we just break it down, really it's those cards that we're concerned with. we'll keep nut and second nut. So we do think he's calling quite a bit, and we beat 65%. So I think this is a good bet here, good call here. I think the 4, if we were behind a 2 pair, that just bails us out. So the only thing we're really losing to is the flush. If we bet, I expect him to raise that. I think if we bet, I expect probably 2 pair to call. I mean, it didn't really change much. If he doesn't believe that we have a 10 or a king, he's probably calling with that 10 and the king. So I think we can probably go get some value for this. He does seem to call. I mean, he's loose. We have to assume that he's playing those hands and he's not going to fold it with a 1 pair hand. We could easily check. So the question is, if we check, is he going to bet these middle pair hands for us, or would he call them? And if we break them down again, there's only 25% of the hands that he now has that are ahead of us, and 74% that we beat. And would he bet any of these hands that we beat? I know he's betting the flush, or I assume at least the nut flush, but we know he doesn't have that. So I think that significantly reduces the flush and kind of gives him something more like this. So I do think he's going to probably call those, even if it's just 2 pair or pocket pair less than the top card. I think we're going to get some value for it. So I bet, and maybe that is too aggressive. He calls, he shows Jack 10, so he does have that. I mean, he didn't believe the king hit us, and he just called. So I think we got a lot of good value from this. Just by being aggressive, by continuing to bet and not trying to get too fancy. It's I didn't put anything in here, so what we need to do is kind of make sure that we can see that he called a under the gun 3 big in low jack with jack clubs 10 of diamonds out of position. So call 66%. Call 50%, call 50%. So we just have to remember to attack this player when we have, better than, or top pair, top kicker, and better, because it looks like he's calling down with at least that top pair and didn't really budge, even when a king came, an overcard, and when that club hit. So we got value. I like it. I like that we got value. And I like the aggression in the sand. I like our c-bet. And I do think the c-bet's probably appropriate, even against good players, better players. Kind of like, probably like this guy, maybe. Tighter player, tighter passive. This guy, definitely, I think we would still continue c-betting, but we'd play it more closer to what I think would be a GTO style. And I think we are kind of at the bottom end of our value range with the c-bet. It's just we don't have a huge number of semi-bluffs on this board, so it limits how many hands will be value betting hands. So hopefully you enjoy this, and if you do, look tomorrow for another one.